You've been a coach for so many years, and very much at the forefront of coaching, professional coaching.
So it's now 23 years, which just seems hard to believe. But anyway, and I'm an ICF Master Certified Coach.
Yes. And, every week I hear that passion in the classroom with our students. And thank you for contributing to this book. I'm really excited about purchasing it.
It's different to other coaching books because it really gets inside the assessor's head. It's not just about ticking the box and getting the credential, but it's also being the best coach that you can be.
Letting the client tap in really is amazing and effective.
Yeah, so it's really nice to know that people aren't making a profit on this.
Hello listeners, we are your co-hosts Janine Bailey and Marie Quigley for the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast.
Empower World brings guests who are making a difference to the world to inspire coaches and leaders who lead with mind, heart and soul.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. And I am delighted to be here with a very special guest who I've been wanting to bring on to our podcast for quite some time. It's taken a while, Tracy. I'm not here with Marie, but I am here with the wonderful Tracy Tresidder. And so welcome, Tracy. Thank you for being here. And
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Very pleased to be here.
Yeah. Fantastic. As I say, I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, but for whatever reason, we haven't made it happen until now. And I just want to share that Tracy, I've known Tracy for quite a number of years now, and it was through our leadership roles with the ICF Australasia, which is where I first met and connected with you. And as a consequence of that, we've been working together for quite a number of years now with ACAP. I always forget
what the acronym means.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Australian College of Applied Professions. It used to be the Australian College of Applied Psychology, but they've added an MBA into their suite, and so now it's called the Australian College of Applied Professions.
Thank you for reminding me of the acronym, because we always refer to it as ACAP, so it's quite long. And so we've been working together for quite some time, supporting students, mentoring them in relation to the credentials, ACC, PCC, the markers, supporting them to become credentialed coaches. So that's been a wonderful journey with you, Tracy. So thank you for that opportunity to partner with you and ACAP. But of course, I've been wanting to bring you on the podcast for clearly many reasons, because of your experience, because you've been a coach for so many years, and very much at the forefront of coaching, professional coaching, and having an influence in respect to the markers. But a great opportunity has arisen for us to meet today because of this book, Becoming an ICF Credentialed Coach, so that Journey to ACC, PCC, MCC. And so it's just seemed like a fantastic opportunity because you are a contributor to that book. So I wanted to highlight that to our audience. But Tracy, first and foremost, I'd love to hand over to you to introduce yourself. Thank you, Tracy.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Janine, and thank you for having me. It's lovely to meet in this forum as opposed to in our teaching classroom with all our students, which we love, by the way. So I've been coaching now since 2001, so it's now 23 years, which just seems hard to believe, but anyway. And I'm an ICF Master Certified Coach. I've been working pretty much across a few different domains in coaching, so working mainly in the executive or corporate space. My area of passion or joy is working with women in leadership and helping them develop their leadership potential. Helping them to understand themselves better, why they do what they do, what might be getting in the way of them being the best leader that they can be. And so that's my own coaching business, and also working with other coaching providers. But I've also been in the mentoring space for probably 12 years, I think, supporting coaches in developing their coaching competence and capability and capacity, and also assessing coaches. And I've been doing that since, I think, 2008. So I've been in this space of coaching in many different realms. So coaching myself, working as a coach, an assessor, a coach assessor for ICF, and also a coach mentor. I've also been involved in a number of leadership forums with ICF, supervision, credentialing, assessing, a whole range of pilot programs to basically to support the development of coaching and help it to maintain a professional level, even though it's not a profession, it's an industry, but we're still trying to keep it as professional as we can. So I've been supporting the work around that with ICF in a volunteer capacity for quite a number of years, and been involved with ICF Australasia as president for a period of time, and their coaching excellence coordinator, and a whole range of other things. But basically, I've been in the coaching space now for 23 years. Yeah, I love it.
Yes, and every week I hear that passion in the classroom with our students, and again, I'm just really grateful for your time and bringing your expertise into our podcast, because I hear your expertise, your experience, and importantly the passion that you bring with the learning to support students to go on an amazing journey of discovery in relation to these wonderful skills of coaching and leadership. So we know these skills, when we embody them, they are really going to support ourselves as a leader and to lead others in a way that is empowering and supportive. So thank you, Tracy. And thank you for contributing to this book. I'm really excited about purchasing it. I know it comes with a wealth of resources for coaches, or for people who are wanting to become coaches, or for leaders who coach. So we were talking earlier before we came onto this podcast, and there was that acknowledgement and recognition that this book is different from other coaching books out there. So, Tracy, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this book and why it is different, and it's going to be an invaluable resource for coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. It's different to other coaching books because it really gets inside the assessor's head, which is what, I mean, there are fantastic coaching books out there without a doubt. This one comes from a different perspective, and that is I think Jonathan Passmore, who is he's the main editor on the book. He said it's kind of finding the secret sauce behind, what's going on in the assessor's head to be able to support the coaches who are moving towards a credential in being ready and prepared and being the best coach they can be. So, I look at it from two perspectives. It's not just about ticking the box and getting the credential, but it's also being the best coach that you can be and helping you understand in so much more depth the behaviours, the competencies, the markers, the observable markers, understanding what they mean and what they look like, so that the coach can be at their best, and also the leader, because the people who are leaders as coaches will really benefit as well, because the explanation at the different levels, from ACC, Associate Certified Coach, which is the beginner level with 100 hours of coaching, through PCC, which is the intermediate level, 500 hours, right through to MCC, which is the Master Certified Coach with more than 2,500 hours of experience. It really distinguishes really clearly what is the difference that we, the assessors, are looking for at each level, and how we come to the final scoring that we come to. So it's very different to a lot of other coaching books from that perspective. So I'm recommending that everybody get it. And also with the book comes a whole series of webinars where we unpack it even further, so it's in greater depth than what's just in the book by itself. And the webinars start on the 18th of September and go right through till the 4th of December, both in UK and European time, and then there's another webinar in the Asia South Pacific friendly time, which is fantastic. And they'll be recorded. They'll also be recorded and transcribed and translated in Spanish and English, and they'll be available in perpetuity. So when you buy the ebook, you'll be able to get the webinar recordings as well, which I think will be really valuable because there'll be things in the webinars that aren't actually in the book. And there's also the final webinar is on coaching and AI, which is going to be very interesting as well. So that's what it's all about.
Fantastic. And I wish this book had been around in my early days of learning to become a coach. And still, as an MCC coach, I'm still looking forward to reading, getting involved in the webinars, and so much more, because as we know, there's always something to learn. There's always something to appreciate or to reconfirm or recognize again. So, but I think what a fantastic resource that every coach leader should buy. And it's great that these webinars are going to be available, as you say, forever. There's something that you shared, Tracy, in relation to the book, and it just triggered off. Often new coaches will see these competencies as a tick box that I've got to, go through this tick box of competencies to become credentialed, and therefore don't perhaps recognize actually those competencies are there for a purpose, for a reason, and that if we really embody them, they are really going to absolutely support you as a coach and your client, and again as a leader. So as I share that with you, what comes up for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we know that as we grow and develop in our coaching and we move from that beginner level, ACC level, through to the MCC mastery level, that it's not just a development of our own competency, it's not just a development of our skill, it's a development of us as a person. So there's this holistic approach to the whole piece around how do we actually grow and develop as an individual, because one of my favorite sayings is you can't coach beyond the level of your own development. And quite a lot of our students have said, and a lot of people that I've mentored have said, that they can't believe how different they are now to how they were 1, 2, 5, 10 years ago, because understanding and learning coaching helps them embody those competencies in themselves and helps them understand themselves better, helps them understand why they do what they do, helps them then really work skillfully and masterfully with those competencies to support them in their partnership with their client to help them achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. So, yeah, it's very, very useful. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I think, and thank you for that response. And I think it's about coaches letting go of this tick box.
Oh yes, the tick box, yes, and that's one of the most challenging things that we find. That, and when I say we, I mean you and I find when we're mentoring our students, doing their graduate certificate in applied coaching, is that they feel like they have to sit with the bars or the markers beside them and then tick them kind of as they go through the coaching, go through their coaching session, which is it's coaching's like acting. You have to learn the script and then throw it away and then be the actor. So coaching is very similar. You've got to learn the competencies, learn the bars or learn the markers, and then embody them in the way you're being, and then throw away the boxes that you feel you need to tick. Because when you sit in that space of attempting to tick markers or tick bars, which bars stands for behaviorally anchored rating scale. So if you're trying to tick those bars, then you're not being present with your client. you're actually in your head thinking, am I doing a good job as a coach, or have I got that marker ticked or that competency ticked off? And so we're wanting the students to study them, to learn them, to read about them, to practice them in small ways, and practice them in their coaching with their colleagues that they're studying with, their students or whoever, and then gradually start to trust that they have the information, that they have the knowledge, that they don't need to rely on ticking a box to prove that they can do it, that they actually embody the coaching, they embody the competencies, and they come through them in the way they respond to what their client is giving them. And I think that's the most important piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's wonderful to, to really observe, hear, listen, feel when a coach makes that connection about embodying versus I've got to try and tick off these competencies. You can really hear and sense it. And when that happens, it's just a beautiful thing to notice and observe and be able to mark if marking for assessment purposes. So, and I certainly know, and I don't know when this happened for me, that transition of just really embracing those competencies. What a difference that made to my own coaching, and really embodying and incorporating that the client is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, and letting them go on their own journey. And I think that is potentially one of the most difficult things for many new coaches to grasp that and to trust that and to believe that. But when it happens, gosh, it's amazing.
It is. It's very special. Yeah. And as we know, and for people who are listening may not know, but, we like to look at it, a coaching session as a bookend. It has bookends. It has an opening, the establishing and maintaining agreements, and it has competency 8, which is facilitating clients' growth at the end. And ideally, we have an opening and a closing. And what we find is that with the coaches who are trying to tick the markers or tick the boxes, they're very formulaic in the way they do it, and it's very stilted, and they're not responding to what the client is giving them. But when we hear the coach who is coaching really masterfully, and there are even ACC and PCC coaches who are coaching way beyond those levels. They have some natural inclination in them to relax and go with the client, to partner with the client in that space. They still have the opening and closing, which is required. But then they're in that space of, listening actively and being deeply present with their client and evoking awareness. So they're really embodying all the competencies as they go through that process, just being mindful of the fact that there is an opening and a closing and a time frame that they need to stick with. And I think that's one of the challenges with particularly the beginner coaches is how to manage their time and keep those bookends reasonably tight. So and not feel formulaic. And I keep coming back to that. Trust yourself. Study the competencies. Study the markers or the bars. Practice and keep working on it.
And the beautiful thing is, which I absolutely understand and appreciate, the beautiful thing is when we do embody these competencies, including the closing and opening bookend, actually we can be far more effective as a coach, and therefore really shorten the time frame that we do coach, because we are able to, again, when we embody, we're able to support the client to go deep effectively and bring out that wisdom far more effectively than following that formulaic tick box way of coaching. I actually listened to a recent recording from one of our students who was doing an MBA, and part of that included a coaching unit, and they were asked to coach for 14 minutes. and they were to be assessed under the ICF credentials requirements, as well as the universities for coaching. And I was astonished at her ability to be able to meet many of the competencies at a PCC level in 14 minutes. She didn't, she wasn't able to tick off all of them. I use tick in inverted commas. And yes, there was absolutely room for improvement in that 14 minutes, but she really demonstrated, if we really embody those competencies and, listen to what the client is bringing and trust them, that they can actually do amazing things in a short period of time. Now, I'm not suggesting that coaches should coach for 14 minutes, but anything is possible when we embody the competencies as much as possible. But, that presence and letting the client tap in really is amazing and effective. So Tracy, in terms of this book, what else can coaches expect? Again, I'm excited about investing in it and finding out more. What else can coaches and leaders expect from going on that journey in that book?
Yeah, so the book is a contribution of 37 authors who are all MCC coaches and assessors for ICF. And what we do in the book is we unpack each of the core competencies and we look at each core competency at each level. So what does it mean for example, listens actively at an ACC level, and then some examples of questions that you might use at that level. And then what does it look like at a PCC level? And then once again, some examples. And then what does it look like at an MCC level? So it identifies the core competency, gives the definition, and then unpacks it at each of the three levels. It also asks some reflective questions, so the coach can or the leader can ask themselves questions to be able to then go, well, actually, am I really meeting this competency? And here are some things that I can reflect on in that time.
Mm.
So we're looking at definition of the terms within the competency itself. So for example, in listens actively, we look at what does the word listen mean to, what does it mean, what does the word actively mean, and then when we put them together, what does listens actively actually mean? We also look at the competencies under the microscope. So we look at the behaviourally anchored rating scales, commonly known as the bars, that indicate the comprehension and the deployment of the competency. And we look at those at each level. So once again, it's a description of what the bar is. For example, in the ACC, 6.1 is the coach uses summarising or paraphrasing to make sure they understood the client correctly. And then we give some examples of what that might look like. So some questions or some observations or some summaries in this instance with 6.1 of what that might look like for the coach. So we then go reflecting questions wherever you are in your coach development. It doesn't really matter. So questions like, did you listen from their point of view? Did you listen for key words? Did you listen more than you actually spoke? I know they're closed questions, but they're which is okay in this instance. And then we move on to the PCC markers for each competency, and once again unpack those. So a little bit of an explanation of what the marker looks like, and then an example of questions that might be asked, and then there's a bit of once again some reflective questions for the coach at that level. So, for example, are you listening not just to the words, but for beliefs, assumptions, and values? Are you listening for only problems or weaknesses rather than possibilities? Are you being present to your client by removing distractions or noticing your own bias or fear of silence? So just some nice questions at each level. And then we move into the MCC bars, and once again have a bit of an explanation and then a description of what it looks like, and then some examples of how the coach might demonstrate that bar. And then we look at how do you grow into that MCC level, so that continuous learning, which is really vital for mastery. So how do you do that with each competency? More training, advanced coaching programs, ongoing supervision, which we know, which is really essential for enhancing mastery, reflection. So once again, a number of questions to ask yourself at the end of each chapter. So reflecting on your coaching practice wherever you are in your coach development series of questions. And then each chapter has a case study as well, which kind of brings it a bit more to life in relation to the particular competency. Then we also look at things like how that competency serves the client, how that competency stands as an important pillar in the coaching relationship. And then we also look at how that competency actually serves the coach. So why is it useful? What's useful for the coach? And then we look at how do you incorporate the competency into your daily life? Because realistically, each one of these competencies are things that we can do, not only in coaching sessions, but just in our daily life. And then each chapter then looks at what is your evolution to becoming a masterful coach. So how you navigate your way through the behaviours and the markers as you continue to grow. So, and then there's a bit of there's usually some references or recommended readings at the end of each chapter as well. So yeah, it's a great collaboration, and Jonathan Passmore and Judith Abrivon-Bartel are the two editors, and they have done an amazing job in bringing together the collection of MCC coaches and who are all assessors to be able to bring it together in a way that feels like it flows well from one competency to the next, and not just a whole disparate group of people doing different things. So yeah, it's been as I described to somebody the other day, it was a labour of love. It took quite a while, I think it will be a very, very valuable resource, not only to coaches, but also to leaders and people who are thinking about coming into coaching as well.
Yes, I absolutely hear the incredible wisdom and depth of knowledge and experience that will be in that book. Knowing a few of you who are contributing to this book, and I think it's just going to demystify what is potentially a mystery for many coaches about, the differences. I think ACC, potentially PCC, maybe it's because we mentor all the time in relation to ACC, PCC, is perhaps it's evident to myself, but perhaps not for others. What really is the difference between ACC, PCC, and particularly PCC and MCC? So I think this will really support the profession and those who invest in it. It will enhance what they do. So I think it's just such a wonderful thing that you and your 36 peers and the editors have put together to make a powerful resource that's going to support the industry going forward, and leaders, of course. So, yeah, thank you, Tracy, so much for sharing what this book is about and your contribution. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up our podcast today?
No, I don't think so. I wasn't the sole author on my particular chapter, so I would, just a bit of a shout out to my two support people. We had Asana Almossa from Jordan and Johan van Bavel from Belgium. So a really nice world view of three coaches from very different parts of the world. So it's been like that with each chapter has usually 3 or 4 coaches contributing to it and bringing it together. So yeah, I want to thank all of them for their time, their effort, their expertise, their wisdom, which is coming out in a beautiful flowing way in the book, which is fantastic. Yeah. So thank you for offering to host a little podcast about it, which is great. So get the word out there to help people really, as you say, demystify what's going on in the assessor's head.
Absolutely, yes. I think it will be. I am so sure that it will be taken up hugely by the profession. And yes, a huge congratulations for contributing and creating a legacy. Really, that's what I'm hearing. So thank you, Tracy.
Sorry, can I just add too? I forgot to say that the proceeds from the book are actually being gifted to the ICF Foundation. So where they do great work in supporting underprivileged or other countries or areas or communities that can't afford coaching, and they offer pro bono coaching into areas that need it but can't afford it. So so it's really nice to know that people aren't making a profit on this. The money's going back into coaching, which is great.
Yeah. What a wonderful gift that is. And thank you for bringing that in. Really aware that there is this paying forward. Yeah. Thank you again, Tracy. Really appreciate you bringing in your wisdom and experience and so much more. Really appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next week in the work that we do with ACF. And thank you, listeners. If you have any feedback, please do provide to support@empower-world.com. And you can find Tracy Tresidder, no E in Tracy. Tresidder is...
Tresidder is 1 S and 2 Ds.
I don't normally say your...
I know my surname. It's Tresidder. So it's not written the way it sounds. So yeah. 1 S and 2 Ds.
Fantastic. So you can find Tracy Tresidder on LinkedIn and anywhere else people can find you, Tracy, if they want to be in touch.
On my website, tracytresidder.com. Just have to spell it right.
It is.
And I'm hoping you'll provide a link, hopefully, in your podcast page with a link to the book as well, which is Libri Publishing. So they'll be able to get on there, and then they'll be able to see the webinar schedule as well, which starts on the 18th of September and goes through till the 4th of December. Yeah.
And those who listen to this after that time, there'll be a link to invest in the book and the webinars, the recordings. So,
yeah. So when you purchase the ebook, you'll also get access to all the webinars as well.
Fantastic, Tracy. Thank you so much again. Really appreciate you and look forward to seeing you very, very soon.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about us on our website, www.empower-world.com, and on our social media networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Be empowered.